A new quarter. Today starts our third quarter, and it actually starts our new unit in reading. So we are done with book clubs, and you guys did a great job taking the long benchmark test last week. And so today I'm going to just introduce to you our new unit, which this time you're still going to be in stories. We're going to have you choose from some different short stories, and then it's also a time where you can start getting into your own books of choice again that you want to be reading. And so we're going to dive into that today. Our goal today in this unit, you're going to hear a lot about theme, which I know we have touched on earlier this year. But we're just going to take a deeper look into it. So just a review about what theme is, okay? Every story with characters and plot and events usually has a theme with it. And the theme is kind of hard to find because the theme is usually never just said by the author, okay? It's not the main idea, it's not what happened. It is the big idea that the author's trying to teach you. So I think of it as it's the real world lesson or message that you can take away from the story. So it's not what happened in the story, it's what you learned as a reader from what the characters did. So, for example, a theme could be, the importance of family. You could read a book about something and realize it's really important that I value my family relationships. That would be my theme. Or the power of love, like how the power of love can really change someone's life. Or the benefits of hard work, that when you really stick through something and work hard, it will really pay off on the end. Those are all lessons that you can take and apply to your own life in the real world or apply it into another story. And so that is called the theme. And that's what we're going to look for in our stories starting in this unit. There are several ways to find theme, okay? It is not always an easy one to find. So I'm going to teach you one strategy today where we're going to break down the parts of the story and we're going to ask what are we learning in those parts, and then we're going to get an overall one theme. So we call this tracking theme. So how can we track the theme? It's when we're going to read a story, we're going to stop partway through, we're going to think about, what happened in the story, what's happening, and we're going to ask ourselves this question: what is a lesson I can learn from that moment in the story? Like, what can I take away from that part? We're going to write it down as small little theme statements, and then at the end, we're going to look at all of them and figure out, what is the overall lesson I think maybe the author's trying to teach me? So today, I want to show you an example I'm going to use Patrol, what we just used in book clubs, because it'll be shorter. I don't have to reread the whole story for you. But as a reminder, it's a short story about a soldier in the Vietnam War and just how traumatizing and fear-ridden his experience is in trying to figure out who the enemy is and that whole story. So what I did, and this is what you're going to practice with later with a story, is I looked at the beginning of the story, the middle, and the end. I'm just going to think of 3 parts of the story, and I'm going to fill out some things about them, and then hopefully get my overall theme of what I think the author's trying to teach me. So if you look here, I have the beginning of the story. I'm just going to fill out, what's happening at the beginning of the story? And so I just filled out, the soldier is following his squad through the Vietnam jungle, and he's constantly afraid of the enemy because he constantly talks about how, should we move? Should we not move? He follows his crowd, and they're in that terrain of Vietnam where they don't see the enemy very well. They can hide behind trees. And so I feel like that's the main thing that he's saying, is he's just really afraid. And so I stopped I read about like 5 pages, and I stopped because that's kind of the beginning of the story, and I wrote that down. That's what's happening. And then I asked myself down below here, what is the theme or lesson that I can learn? Now, there could be more than one answer here, okay? So when you write your theme, if you have an argument from the story, there could be more than one right answer, and you could be right, even if you're different than somebody else. So for me, what I thought of, what is that, how he's constantly afraid teaching me? Like that I could say, that does happen in life. And I think it says that fear can paralyze you and make you miss things, because he's so paralyzed by fear, he maybe is not as good of a soldier at times because he's too afraid to even move. And I thought about in real world, in real life, not because I'm in a war, but I've had instances where I've been really afraid, and if I don't make a conscious choice to push through it, I'm just going to sit there and I'm going to miss out on things in life. So fear can do that. Okay, so my little theme is not necessarily about the book, right? It's not about patrol. It's about a lesson in the real world that I could learn from it. So then I went on to the middle of the story, okay? And this is the part where we talked about before, where the soldier, remember, comes face to face with the other enemy soldier in the tall grass, and they're like frozen, kind of realizing, whoa, the other person, the other enemy is a real person, and they both decide to not shoot each other. They lower their rifles and they walk away. So again, I wrote, well, what's happening in the middle of the story? And then I had to stop and ask myself, well, what's a lesson that I can learn about life from that? And I mean, since the book's about war, I feel like it's teaching me a lesson about war, right? I'm not in a war right now, not in a physical war, but it can teach me about war in general. So I think it really shows that war impacts people on both sides of the conflict, no matter who's right or wrong in different people's eyes, that war is just going to really affect you no matter who you are, because both of those soldiers didn't want to be there. They both were just human, probably young men, and they didn't want to kill each other. And so it really impacted both of them, not just my main character from the American side. And then I'm going to go on to the end, right? So I fast forward, and I don't know if we ever got to the end on here, but at the very end, there's he gets back to his like barracks where he lives at the time with his other soldiers, and he's writing a letter home, and he's telling them how tired he is of the war. He just keeps talking about how tired he is. That's what's happening. And so again, I had to ask myself, well, what's the lesson from the end of the story? Like, what could I take from that? And I just kind of thought, well, war drains the life out of people is what came to my mind. Because you're so tired. It takes your emotional strength, your physical strength. You're missing your family. It's very traumatic for a lot of people. They have a hard time getting over what they've seen in war, even when they come home. So it just drains the life out of people. So there's my story. I just looked at the beginning, the middle, the end. I wrote what would happen, and I wrote some little lessons that I think I could learn from that. Again, you could have different ones. And then our goal is we're going to take these 3 little themes and we're going to look for a pattern and get what we call an overall big theme for the story. And so I kind of looked, well, do I notice anything that's in more than one place? Fear can paralyze you and make you miss out on things. War impacts people on both sides of the conflict. War drains life out of people. So I kind of felt like all of that goes into this about, man, everyone in war gets affected in negative ways. And so I wrote it as, I think the lesson learned is that the trauma of war, okay, of any war, not just my character here, changes the lives of everyone involved, no matter what country you're from. It changed the life probably of when those soldiers went home, their own families' lives, because they were changed. And so it changes everyone involved, no matter what country you're from or what side you're on. So I'm going to put that as my, what we call a theme statement, just my lesson. I'm not going to write about the main idea. I'm not going to say the soldier went to Vietnam and ran into another soldier. That would be the main idea. What I'm writing now is a lesson from the real world that I could pull from the author, from the story. And I think the author is trying to show us that war changes everyone's lives that's involved. So that is your goal today. It's a lot. Okay, there's a lot of pieces, but we're just going to dive in and practice and do your best. So if you were to keep going for day 1 down on our slides, first of all, we're going to start keeping our videos on our slides. You might have seen a little bit of a different setup in Canvas today. We're not going to have the videos as a separate page. We're just going to put it all in the slides in one place for you. So the video will be here, my example, and then for to do, you are going to be reading a story that is down below. Okay, the easiest way for me to get it to you was to put it on slides. And so it's on 3 slides, but it's a short story called Each Kindness. You can see I put this, you do it. So the slides that have this, the next 3 or 4 slides, you would be doing that. And you're just going to take a minute and read the story called Each Kindness. There is also on the 3rd slide a video of a teacher who's reading it, the illustrations, if you'd like to listen to it and read it as well. And then your goal today as a reader is you're going to take each kindness and try to find the theme just like I did. So you'd be filling it out. You're going to ask yourself what happened at the beginning, the middle, the ending of the story. What are some little themes, lessons I learned? And then try to come up with one overall statement in a sentence that you could make. So have a great day. I know this is a new kind of a thing, and so it might be a challenge. So hang in there, message us if you have questions or you get stuck. I know we'd all be happy to meet with you, and have a good day.